Let's bring in Rob Smith, host of the podcast Can't Cancel Rob Smith, and we would never even consider doing that. Rob, violent crime in several major cities. Baltimore up 6%. We can put up on the board for everyone. Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. And every Monday, it feels like we are talking about big crime over the weekend, but now it's not just Mondays. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, every single day.
That was a really heartbreaking story that you saw right there. And I think that when you look at what's happening with George Gascon, and one of the most outrageous things that comes from that whole story is that he was actually investigated for not prosecuting 3 strike laws, right? So this guy Flores was already out on his 3rd strike. And so Gascon declined to prosecute that. And so that this guy was able to get out and sort of participate in this. And I think that when you're thinking about the Gascons of the world, when you're thinking about all these people, they are not influenced by anything other than their ideology. Their ideology says that no matter how much crime there is, no matter how much violence rises, that their ideology is the most important thing, when it comes to them sort of doing these laws.
Gascon was born in Cuba.
Yeah.
And L.A. went overwhelmingly for Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And as, I can hear the pleas of those parents.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that they want change. I'm not convinced just yet that LA is going to get it.
Yeah, I'm not convinced either because, this guy is being recalled again. There was a recall effort against Gascon a couple of years ago. It failed, and so now they're in round 2. And I think what it is that the only thing that these people fear, the Gascons of the world, the only thing that they fear is not being reelected, right? So that is the only thing that puts the fear of God in them. It is not more crime. It is not more violence. The only thing they fear is to not be reelected. And so when the people come together and decide that this is no more, it's the only thing that is going to change things, I think.
Rob, one of the things you hear it in many interviews, but Mr. Santana, who just spoke there with his wife, he said that the Gascon needs to do the right thing in order to protect the police so that the police can do their job in protecting the communities who need it the most. And if you look at the increases that we just showed in those major cities, but it's not just those cities.
Yeah.
Denver is seeing it as well. You have it across the board in even mid-sized cities. And we did a story last week about rural areas. But in these cities, when he talks about the communities who need it the most, what do you want Democrats to hear from a plea like that?
I want Democrats to hear that the ideology isn't working, so they have to focus on solutions that are going to help people in these communities. And it's really interesting that you hear all of the defund the police rhetoric, you hear all of that stuff coming from these sort of far-left people, but that's coming from the national figures, right? You're not seeing a lot of that stuff coming from the local figures because the local figures are screaming for more policing. They are screaming for more sort of brutal laws that are against these criminals that are doing this stuff. And so what I think that mainstream Democrats with a lot of power need to do is they need to listen to the communities and not listen to that far left base on Twitter and their people who are sort of fundraising and getting more followers.
That's a great point.
That stuff.
Great point. 2 teenagers shot in Atlanta over the weekend, at least 35 shot in Chicago.
Yeah.
9 shot in Harlem late last night here in New York City as well.
And also in Washington, D.C. we did that story.
And I think about the interview you did last hour with the woman at the University of Kentucky who was talking about transgender swimmers.
Yeah.
And she said, we make a difference when we get volume. Okay, well, you can make a difference in these cities. The people who live there are demanding the change that's appropriate to make the city safe again.
It is. And I think that it's unfortunate that this is kind of like a partisan issue, right? So what happens is that if there's only, conservatives or Republicans or conservative-leaning media that's talking about this violence in these cities, it becomes a partisan issue when the people that are the most deeply affected by these things are the people that are living in these cities.
Right.
And I'm not thinking that these people are voting for anybody but Democrats, and that's fine. But people need to come together to find solutions and to sort of take the partisanship out of this.
Rob Smith, great to have you here. Thank you for your insights.
Thanks a lot, guys.
In person again. Thank you, Rob.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.